Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a couple more examples here for you for lesson 2 in unit 5 on statistics. We're talking bar graphs still. So, example 3, Roger is a real estate agent in Red Deer, Alberta. The graph below compares the average house prices of a new single family home and resale of single family homes. So, a new family home or a resale, so a not new house. Here we have the title, Single Family House Prices in Red Deer, Alberta from 2002 to 2009. The resale homes, the legend here gives us the idea that the resale homes, so the not new homes, are in the darker color, and the new homes are kind of in the gray, the lighter gray color. So I've got a bar graph here, and this is called a double bar graph. So you can see that for each point on my x-axis for 2002, I have two sets of data. I know that resale homes were cost about $172,000 because this is the average price in thousands of dollars. And in 2002, new homes cost about $175,000. So new homes, the average price was slightly higher than the resale home. Okay. And as we go through the data points, you can see that the general trend, which might be a question we'd have to answer, the general trend is kind of going up. And every year that we have data for, we can compare the average prices. Okay, so here's some questions that we would have to answer. A says, what was the average price of a new single family home in 2005? So we go to 2005, we look for the new homes, which is the lighter gray. It's $240,000. That would be the answer, 240,000. Now, it's not just 240, it's 240,000 because remember, the average price is being represented in thousands here. It's very important. B says, between what years was there a drop in the price of resale single family homes? So, which years did we see a drop in price of the resale? Well, the resale was the darker gray, like or almost black. And do we see anywhere where there's a drop in price? So going up, these prices are slowly rising. And then I get to 2007, I have 355,000. And then 2008, it's 350,000. And then 2009, it's 330,000. We can see that resale price, the average price, is dropping. And so I would answer from 2007 to 2009. And then C says, what is the general trend in the differences in prices, which cost more or less, of the two types of units? In which years was this not so? Let me unpack that question. That question is a little bit wordy and confusing. What is the general trend in the difference in prices of the two types of units? So general trend, that one's a little bit easier. The general trend is that every year prices are going up. Okay. So every year prices are increasing or going up. The second part, in which years was this not so? So in which years did the trend not follow that? Well, we just kind of identified that the price for resale homes went down in 2007 to 2009. Okay. The price for new homes was still increasing. So I would say for resale homes from 2007 to 2009 is kind of the first part of the answer. For resale from 2007 to 2009. But then you might also say, if you look at 2002 and 2003, prices are pretty steady here for the resale homes. Okay. So, we go from 172 to 175, which is an increase. So it does follow the trend, but it's a very slight increase. And so we could say, based on that, we could also say 2002 to 2003. Now, as long as your answers make sense again here, I will accept different answers there. So you just have to make sure that you're answering the question to the best of your capability. Let's do the last example here. This example says, when comparing data, you can sometimes use what's called a stacked bar graph. So we have bar graphs, we have double bar graphs, and now we have a stacked bar graph. In this style of graph, each type of item is represented by a different color, but instead of being drawn side by side, the bars are stacked on top of each other. It's important that the bars are stacked in the same order. Okay, and so let's just take a picture or just take a look at this graph here. Single family house prices in Red Deer, Alberta. You can see that the bars are stacked on top of each other. So the resale is the black part, and then the new houses would be represented by the gray part, which I'm filling in there with red. And so it's a visual representation. It's just a different way to represent it. Okay. And it helps sometimes to compare data. You don't have to do it this way. In fact, sometimes you don't want to do it this way because it might hinder some analysis of the data. So we're using, this is the information that we used about family house prices in Red Deer. It's the same information, okay? So what is less obvious? So A said draw a stacked bar graph. This is the stacked bar graph here. This is what we're looking at. What's less obvious on the stacked graph than on the double bar graph? Well, to me, I mean, the trend in the value of new properties is a little bit less obvious in the stacked bar graph. And so, you can see that the trend is still kind of going up, okay? But it's not quite as dramatic as it is in this bar graph here. It just kind of visually, it looks like a little bit more dramatic, like we've got a more dramatic increase. And again, it really depends on just how you represent the data, and you can choose to represent the data in certain ways. Of course, like a question is going to ask you to draw a stacked bar graph. So you're going to have to draw a stacked bar graph or draw a single bar graph. And so you would have to do that. But if you were choosing this to represent it in a project, for instance, you might be able to choose which way you want to represent it. And then you would have to pick the right graph, or not the right graph, but the graph that you want to use to represent the data. And so just be careful with that again, because you can interpret data in very, very different ways. This question has an alternative solution. So the graph could also have been drawn with the new sales on the bottom and the resale houses stacked on top. You could have kind of, flipped it around. So flipped the new on the bottom and the resale on the top. I can't really do that with the computer that I have, but that's another way that you might be able to represent the data. At any rate, guys, this is bar graphs. This was the section on bar graphs. I hope it makes sense. Big star that I'm going to put around information is use a ruler. Or if you don't have a ruler, you can use a straight edge, just the edge of something that is straight, to draw your graphs out. Trust me, it's going to help. If I can't read your graphs when you hand them in to me, you're going to lose marks. Okay, so be careful with that. All right, have a good day.